what keeps me motivated is I feel for myself that the songs I write, the stories that I write, that they have value because I believe there's some level of healing
Hmm.
in my music. Whereas it's just a type of song that makes people feel good or educates them or inspires them or uplifts them in any way, I feel that my job as a storyteller through music, there's healing there. And
Hmm.
so I look at myself as a bit of a teacher and as a healer.
Hmm.
And I want to keep contributing because that gives me joy to know that something I said lifted somebody's spirit. So the healing thing inspires me and keeps me motivated. Both of my parents saw my talent when I was young, very early. Both of them saw that, and I think that that is significant. Like my mother was the one to bring me before the family and say, "Hey, everybody, Cydney Wayne can sing, sing something." And so, you're put on the spot. But my family has always been very nurturing. Like nobody said, "Oh, you suck." Everybody was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, yeah, you're great." My dad, when I was 16 years old, did something so remarkable that stayed with me till this day. When I was 16 years old, and in my family, if either me or my sisters was in a play or you were doing anything where you were spotlighted, we would tease each other like, "Oh, she's the star. Oh, you're the star." We would tease each other throughout the family. And when my sisters went off to college and one in the Navy, it was just me and my dad for a while. And I was in my high school play, senior in high school, and I came home from a rehearsal and I was tired. My dad was cooking and I just wanted to eat the spaghetti. And he kept saying, "No, go back to your room, put your stuff away, go back." And I was like, "What?" And I went back. What I didn't know, my dad had put a big star, big bright star, right on my bedroom door. And he knew what that would mean to me. And I just was like, and I remember we had this moment, and he put his arm around me, and we both looked at it. And at this point, I inherited that room because my sisters had gone off to have lived their life. So it was my room, and there was a star there. And my dad said, "Because my baby girl's a star." And that stayed with me. So no matter what people would say to me on this journey, that stayed with me. Then my sister Cynthia was my manager early in my career, and she also helped us with harmony. Um, but she believed in me so much when she moved out here, and this was after I had worked with Marvin Gaye, and she came out here and she said, "Look, I'm going to manage you." She said, "Because nobody's going to mess with my sister, and I know you." And then she said, "You have to focus on your music." She said, "So I don't want you worried about rent and bills." She says, "I'll work. I'll pay the rent.
Hmm.
I'll pay the bills so you don't have to."
That's
So who does that,
yeah.
And that was her love for me, her belief in me. So and my parents and my sister, God forbid, they've all passed on. So just recalling that stays in me. And then the church mamas and the teachers, there's so many people, but the core of those three people are why I'm still standing.
But regardless, what doubts or fears have you had when you first started going for it professionally? And how have those doubts or fears changed over time, or have they not?
That's a very good question, Taylor, really. Doubts and fears. Well, the fear of failure,
Hmm.
to step out and to do it professionally, it's scary. It's really scary. My first When I first started singing professionally, I still had like full time work, and
Yeah.
I would step out and you do a little bit of this, and then I was with a band. We rehearsed in Ohio. We rehearsed like 3 4 nights a week, and everybody had full time jobs just for the occasional weekend gig that would come up, you know. And that kind of groomed me. I knew it takes a lot of work, and you have to be good at this. But when I moved out here, it's like I didn't know the territory, I didn't know the climate, so there were a lot of fears. Like, if I meet somebody, if I listen to what they say, are they trustworthy? So
Mm-hmm.
that was a fear. I had fears in the early part of my career, especially the timeline of when I moved to Los Angeles, when I was very serious, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was afraid of listening to somebody and meeting the wrong person and having one of those stories where you get hooked up and they take you down. That
Mm-hmm.
was a fear. I had another fear that I had a fear that I wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That here I am, I'm this girl born in West Virginia, from Ohio. Do I know enough? Am I good enough? So
Mm-hmm.
that was a fear. Some of my doubts, when early on, I used to listen to other people, and because I didn't do a lot of the riffs and runs, I didn't grow up in like a Kojic church or Baptist, so I sang pretty legitimately. I sang the melody the way the melody was written, and maybe every now and then I put a little thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't do that. So then I thought maybe I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were some of my doubts and fears early on. And then on this journey, then there are people I found out later was because of their own envy. They saw something in me that would say things to make me feel like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to realize, and it took good people to say, girl, please, they just jealous of you. I
Mm-hmm.
had to hear that from good friends and family. Um, so now I don't doubt myself as much because I've gone through the pitfalls of doing it. I've gone through a lot of my fears. Why I'm still here doing it is because I love it that much. So I think now I do have things that, like just even doing this, something that's new, like I'm not familiar with it. It's a little bit of a fear, but I approach my fears differently now that I'm older. I just feel, yeah, I'm afraid of this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that I'm as great as that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to trust my instincts. So I'm at a place now where my doubts and my fears, they're there, but they don't overpower me that they did when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I face them differently. And it's always about moving forward and conquering them. And then when I do conquer a doubt or fear, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, you know. So it's a good feeling when I blast through it.
No, that's really good.
Yeah.
Speaking of those things, it seems like you've developed habits or practices to keep you grounded in this thing. And I haven't even been in music that long, and I feel like half the reason why I'm starting this project is to really have a grounded moment on why do I do this? Why do I like this? What's hanging me up? And
Mm.
like what's my next direction. So my question is, what habits or practices have you developed to stay balanced in this
Wow.
journey? Yeah.
Because as artists, we not only have to be we have to be liberated in order to write and tell our stories.
Yeah.
Everything is not going to come from a moment of, divine inspiration. Some
Mm.
of this is just work and using tools like rhyming tools to make ourselves, like if you're doing this as a business, you got it. But my habits are, first off, speaking to myself. I
Mm.
prayer definitely, but I've been doing that since I was
Mhm.
3. I
Mhm.
speak to myself honestly and correct myself if I know I'm wrong. If I admit my bad, I do. And I think that has helped me to kind of clear some things so that, because sometimes in this business, you're going to have to work with people that maybe you don't really like or don't even
Yeah.
really trust.
Yeah.
But some situation puts you together and you got to figure out a way. So dealing with my own venting that comes up, that's one of my habits. I just talk to myself like, girl, Cydney, you tripping, get it together. So that's the advice I'm giving to myself. I'm recognizing the world is changing and constantly changing. And in order for me to be relevant, in order for me to be present, I have to get past certain fears and learn how to do things that I'm not comfortable learning and not fully comfortable doing. And I probably will make some mistakes, but if I don't try, I won't get past it.
And so what
Yeah.
principles about the industry do you think aren't changing and stay true today?
Oh, that's, girl, you asked some good questions. So what things about the industry
Or
aren't
about music,
changing?
whatever you want to.
No, no. I think one of the things about the industry that has not changed, it's the relationship with an artist to their audience.
Mm.
After all these years, when any artist ignites a group of people or certain group of people where they feel something, people will, like, all their feelings will roar to that artist. An audience and an artist in that live situation where they sense and feel your energy and your authenticity, I think that's something that has not changed. That's why I think that it doesn't matter. And you mentioned something earlier about fame. I mean, fame is relative. It has nothing to do with your talent. It's just how well you are presented through the media and that people have knowledge of you. That's really what fame
Yeah.
is. Now, if they have knowledge of you because of the type of messages and stories that you tell, then hallelujah. I would rather my fame not be from something trivial or something that's contrived. Let it be from something authentic. But I think an audience and the artist, that relationship, that hasn't changed in all these years. If people really, really love you, they love you. And they love you despite your faults and your failures. Artists, I think an artist has to always remember that their audience, it's not like you think of yourself like you are some diva on some high cloud and the audience are these peasants beneath you. It's the opposite. Your audience, I always look at the audience as like they are kings and queens and noblemen. And that I am the little peasant girl doing my dance or singing my song. And when I take my bow is relevant because I'm saying, I hope I pleased you. I hope enough for some kind of sustenance. Maybe it's just the applause. I think feeling validation is something that all of us deal with. I think at some point you have to put a punctuation on it. And you have to make, for me, what works for me, the world of validation, I've made it a very small world. I don't need validation from everybody. I don't need validation from all those that would be fans. I only need validation. I can count them on 5 that matter to me. My own validation to be able to look and say, yeah, I like that. I like what you're doing. I have to trust that. I already mentioned my father gave me such great validation when he said, my baby is a star, and put a star on my door. So my father's thoughts of me and his validation of me, bam,
That's
it kind of offset anybody else. I don't care if you're the president of the biggest label in town. If you say, oh, she ain't nothing, she ain't nobody, wait a minute. What did my daddy said I was a star, so screw you. Once you as an artist trust the gift that's coming through you, you and your audience will find each other. It's kind of like a long lost love, but you'll have many loves. They'll find you. And it's okay. There may be some people like, I don't feel that. That's okay. Thank you. You're not a part of my audience.
The audience.
You're not in my audience. Thank you very much.